and welcome to episode number 2 of the midierror Meets interview series in association with Sonic State. On the show today we have Gravity Rigs Matt Cox, who has been for 30 years the keyboard and MIDI maestro for the Chemical Brothers. So he's toured with them since the mid-90s, still doing it, he's still their main guy. But not only that, Matt's also worked with the Prodigy, he's worked with Subfocus, he's worked with Bicep, Prydz, Pendulum, Pet Shop Boys, Disclosure, the list goes on. And he tells us about his company Gravity Rigs, who do live rigs for people all over the world. Don't forget you can catch up with the first series of midierror Meets with the likes of Tim Exile, Mylar Melodies, Andrew Huang. All of those are available to listen to as well now. But let's get into the chat with Matt and find out how he's doing.
Good, yeah. Post-Christmas, slowly getting back into stuff. It's freezing here in Manchester. It's like the front of a Joy Division album cover or something today. It's absolutely freezing. But yeah, I'm kind of slowly getting back into the studio. Got a few things on the go. So yeah, it's all good. Thanks.
Great. So yeah, you're based in Manchester. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah, I've been here for a while. I've lived in Manchester for quite a long time. The studio space is relatively new. I think I've had it for about 18 months. I've always had some kind of space that I've used for kind of pre-tour programming and prep and stuff like that. And yeah, it's good to be in town now. I'm quite close to the city centre. Feel like I'm going to work every day now when I come in. So yeah, I'm in a quite an interesting building where the School of Electronic Music is, and there's quite a few DJs and producers all in one building, which is pretty cool.
Oh wow.
So yeah, people kind of getting to know people here, and you know, if you need to borrow a cable from someone or whatever, everyone's here, so it's cool.
Yeah, man. Is it kind of like a Tile Yard Studios in London kind of setup? Like how
kind
would you describe it?
I guess you could say it's similar to that in a way. There's a few places. There's Islington Mill, which is very close to here as well, which is another kind of building with a whole bunch of creative people in it. So yeah, it's quite a vibrant area. Salford's, you know, there's a lot of creative people here, which is cool.
I'm surprised you say you go to them for a cable if you need them, because I would expect probably the other way around.
Yeah, that's probably actually the truth. I don't think I borrowed a cable from anyone. Yeah, I probably need to throw a few out, to be honest.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, yeah, I'm really looking forward to speaking to you. And first of all, maybe like how do you describe what you do, and how would you say you got into doing that over the space of many years? Yeah,
I kind of fulfill more than one role, really. I'm obviously known as a touring programmer and technician for some of the work I've done with people like the Chemical Brothers and Subfocus, Prodigy, people like that. But I've also, as I've kind of progressed through that career, I've also got into designing and building the rigs that artists like that use as a kind of sideline as well. So using the experience I've gained touring to design and build performance rigs for like DJs and playback systems for bands, so that there's quite a broad kind of spectrum of things that I do. There's not any one kind of job description really. I was going to say master of nothing. Jack of all trades, master of not quite sure. But yeah, I mean, I got into this whole thing back in the early 90s. I was a tape op in a studio called Planet 4 in Manchester, which was a studio built entirely for the production of dance music, and like a really big control room with a bunch of analog synths in one corner. And I kind of cut my teeth as the T-boy, brewing up, plugging stuff in on a patch bay, then eventually being allowed to edit stuff on hardware samplers, and ultimately becoming like a house engineer in that studio. And just through some of the people that came through the studio as artists, I ended up picking up a job Lion Rock, Manchester band Lion Rock, setting up their kind of live gear for a tour, and that I really got into that. That was the kind of doorway into touring, which eventually led to gigs with the Chemical Brothers, some rock and roll stuff with James, another Manchester band. That was kind of my gateway drug into the whole live thing, if you like.
Yeah, and I suppose that all of those artists that you mentioned have very different requirements. Like you say, like no two shows are the same, and no two bands are the same. And so, yeah, you must have a really diverse range of experience in setting up all kinds of shows, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there is so much tech around now, and there's so many different ways of using it. But yeah, definitely, if you're a band that has any kind of playback, you know, the playback system nowadays, which is probably laptop based, might be completely different to someone who's like a DJ or an electronic artist who probably wants to perform and DJ at the same time with some kind of hybrid rig. So the equipment's different, the way it connects is different, and what they're trying to achieve is different. So yeah, you end up kind of coming across quite a few different scenarios, and each scenario needs different equipment, different kind of philosophy in terms of backup and everything. It's quite interesting though.
Yeah, and I mean the setup that comes to mind that you've done for Disclosure, for example.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very hybrid live setup with one guy on drums, and they've both got synths and equipment, but another guy on sort of melodic stuff. And yeah, I guess you run into things like, I mean, how do you deal with latency and you know, all those kind of connective tissue between the equipment? Like how would you approach, say, like the Disclosure setup, like and how it all works together?
Yeah. I mean, just getting those different departments, if you like, to talk to each other. There's obviously a bit of a journey to make that happen, and very often the artist has got an idea of what they want and what they want to achieve, especially when it's someone like Disclosure. You know, they do their own programming. They're very up to speed on how that tech works because they use it every day in the studio. So they've got definite ideas about what they want to do and how they want to do it. And as much as anything, it's what I bring to the table a lot of the time is how to make that set up quicker, how to make it more bulletproof, how to add redundancy. Not so much the creative side of it, because a lot of the time they're kind of in that world and they know what plugins they want to use, and they might have an idea of, oh yeah, I want to use a controller to control this particular instrument or whatever. So it's, you know, helping with choices like that, as well as making a system like tour friendly and utterly bulletproof, you know, for a show.
Yeah, and you've mentioned as well, you kind of you try and pack things so it can be thrown down the stairs.
Pretty much,
right,
yeah.
For example,
yeah, because it will be. I've sat on a plane once on tour and watched things coming off the conveyor belt out of the underneath of the plane, and someone was like, "Hang on a minute, that looks like our stuff," and it was.
Yeah, my Oberheim Matrix is in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously, yeah, I guess in you know, on an amateur level, we've all experienced having eBay packages turn up with like the worst packaging you've ever seen, and so everybody will appreciate that element of it. So on the subject of like packing down and setting up quickly, it seems like you've got the ability to have a pack down which is quick, which is for sort of transportation within a country, and then you have a different kind of pack away, which is for the freight, as I understand it.
Yeah, I guess you could kind of split it up like that. It does depend on what the artist is doing, but yes, we like to, like we did it with Overmono last year. We kind of did a system for them which allowed them to turn up at festivals, get their gear out of some Pelly cases, get it set up really quickly to do their gig, and then pack it away quickly and get onto the next gig, because they were doing like multiple shows in a day. So
wow.
So having a system that was, you know, all of their various drum machines and pedals and kit that they could just get out and connect really swiftly. That was the kind of watchword for that. So yeah, we've got, whether it's like multi-pin connectors or stuff mounted, multiply mounted on boards, and a bit like guitarists kind of pedal boards, we kind of employ various ideas like that. But yeah, speedy setups and takedowns, especially for like smaller kind of hybrid DJ rigs, it's where it's at, and everything's shrinking now as well. Anyway, like freighting is the live revenue is the income stream for a lot of artists. So shrinking and saving weight and size is like a real kind of thing now, because it saves people money, basically.
Definitely. And I guess also touring with, even on Disclosure, they had two original Junos in the video that I saw. So, they are touring with, vintage gear in some sense. But I guess also the Chemical Brothers as well. There's that element of, moving around very old, very expensive, very delicate equipment.
Yeah, that's... Over the years, we've kind of slightly changed the philosophy on that now. I mean, back in 1997, we were CV and gate triggering Korg monopolies, and there were quite a few time-consuming and temperamental ways of getting that gear to work. And we just, through a process of elimination and kind of looking at things like Oberheim expanders and Jupiter 6s and going, actually, these things are worth a lot of money now. Should they really be on the road? So it's kind of striking a balance between what's a nice bit of gear and actually what's functionally going to be slightly more reliable. And a lot of those things have kind of disappeared slowly out of the rig. So there's an ARP Odyssey, but it's a Korg ARP Odyssey, not a real one. That kind of choice. Still toys to play with, lots of toys to play with, but they're going to work a bit more reliably,
Absolutely, yeah, and yeah, definitely be chucked around and they can easily be replaced. Whereas I guess if you've got a Jupiter 8 or something, it's like 15 grand worth of synth.
Yeah, I mean that is the thing when you're choosing kit for gear for a lot of playback systems is stuff that's not too esoteric and not too hard to get hold of, because if you're in Poland and your audio interface fails, you want to maybe be able to get another one if you're not carrying spares. So that's the kind of thing you've got to consider when you're putting these rigs together.
And you mentioned the sort of the late 90s there, and I was looking at the Chemical Brothers book, A Pause in Cosmic Reflection, is it? Pause in Cosmic Reflection.
Yeah.
So in that book, there's like a tour list of late 90s in the US, which has got your name on it as the backline MIDI tech guy. Can you take us back to those days? Like, what was that like?
Oh man, it was great. I mean, every gig was better than the last gig. And I mean, you look at their rig now and it's pretty insane, but back then it was a much smaller mixing desk, much less in terms of synthesizers and drum machines, and we had some 8-track tape running in the background, which got quite moody in hot club gigs. But that drove, that basically had like some of the loops that you just can't recreate live. They were kind of printed to tape, and then a timecode track drove an MPC 3000, which was the brain of everything. And that in turn triggered synths and some samplers, and then over the top they'd kind of tweak a Juno 106. I think there was an SH 101 back then. But the whole thing was just on and live, and them kind of DJing, and it was like a really early hybrid rig, I guess. Yeah, DJing and kind of performing their own songs, but with that gear. I mean, it must have been great fun for them. I mean, it was brilliant tour, brilliant time.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, to be touring with the Chemical Brothers at that time, I mean, to tour with the Chemical Brothers at any time, I'm sure is just the most incredible experience, especially if anyone's actually seen them live and they know what that's like to be there. But yeah, the late 90s, they were kind of the torchbearers for breakbeat, for UK electronic music. And yeah, there's a mention of an organic festival in California in the book.
Okay. Yeah,
which was I might be Tom who's talking about it, how he was just saying that it was such a pivotal thing that organic festival happened in California, and Coachella wouldn't exist without it. And how do you find touring? Like, I think I read somewhere that you spend most of the year touring. Like, how do you find it? And have you toured? How consistently have you toured since those days, or in the last few years?
I haven't really stopped, to be honest, since 1995 was when I first started. 94, 95. Yeah, I've never stopped. I've always done some kind of touring every year, which I mean, I still enjoy it now. I'm doing less, trying to do less, because Gravity Rigs obviously is now a thing that's keeping us busy. But yeah, I think it's still relevant to tour. Keeping a foot in that whole world just keeps Gravity Rigs up to speed as what's happening with tech and how people are doing things live. But I'm still into it. I still love it. I love travelling, love seeing live shows. And just putting all this stuff together and taking it down again just keeps the ideas flowing constantly, you know. There's always a better way of doing something, or I see someone doing something slightly differently live and think, oh, that's a good idea, I'll try that next time, you know. It's a process that never ends, never stops.
Yeah, I guess sort of continually iterating the setup, and
absolutely.
I guess if everyone on the team's doing that, it's such like a rising tide raises all ships kind of situation where, you know, Ed and Tom are getting feedback from the crowd on their tunes, so they're like working out which bits really hit hard. And yeah, if you guys are doing the same, must be incredible. I mean, for live shows like Eric Prydz, for example, very kind of high tech, very modern tour. How do you integrate with all those kind of visual elements? And maybe I should explain for anyone that doesn't know that Eric Prydz has toured with a big, massive cube.
Yeah.
Which is sort of really huge cube that he's kind of within, with LED screens on the outside of it. Yeah, how do you go about integrating what you do with that stuff? How does that stuff get connected?
We always, at the start of the whole process, we kind of try and capture the requirements that people have for a particular show with the whole team. So in the case of Eric Prydz and artists of that kind of ilk, there's very often a visual team who have particular video servers and particular ways they want to trigger or manipulate video. So we'll sit down with them and work out, do they need time code? Do they need MIDI triggers? Where do they want that kind of stuff? Is it at front of house? Is it at the side of the stage? So that often dictates kit choice, whether there's like network MIDI involved or runs of time code, etc. So we'll just sit down with the artist and with their people and thrash it out. Basically, the start of that whole process before we build or design anything is just, we just talk it through and take it from there, basically.
And I guess there's situations you want to enable all of the creative vision that the artists have, but there must also be times where you kind of have to say, I don't think that's going to be reliable enough. Like we maybe couldn't achieve that, but like you have to make compromises, right? Sometimes.
Absolutely. I think reliability is like a massive thing. As far as live shows go, people go to a live show, they've got expectations, and it's stopping halfway through because something failed isn't really part of the equation. So yeah, that's always a consideration. And if we think a particular bit of kit, however kind of new and fashionable and trendy it is, if we don't think it's suitable for a live show or viable for touring, we'll always flag that up. Yeah, we've got go-to brands that we use for certain things, which we now feel comfortable with. There's certain manufacturers we'll always recommend because their drivers are solid, or that we know that the gear's well made. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's very tempting sometimes to read about Summit and go, oh, this is some shiny new controller that looks brilliant, but until you've bench tested it and trialed it, I wouldn't kind of want to bet any show on something that's, the Emperor's new clothes, basically.
Yeah, marketing can be very persuasive and not always accurate.
Yeah, I mean, that's partly why I've got the studio space. I'll kind of grab stuff, plumb it in and just see how it behaves and try and make it go wrong. And, maybe I should put it in the back of the car and drive around town a few times as well, see if it goes wrong.
Yeah, try and break it. Yeah, I think that's like, I develop my own plugins myself occasionally. And I think one of the things to do is to try and break it before release, because that's kind of what's going to happen. Someone's going to do something mad, plug something in the wrong place. So yeah, it's really, really good to do that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of, you kind of got to do it really, just to know how far you can push a bit of gear. Yeah.
And what's if, in terms of like your go-to brand and your go-to equipment, I know there's a few things that I've seen mentioned in various places that you've used. What would be your kind of, what is your go-to or your generally used equipment for all live shows? Like, what would you like highly recommend that's rock solid, that is a go-to for you?
Yeah, massive favourites of anything by RME. So their audio interfaces and drivers are like rock solid. Gear travels really well. You can run their interfaces at super low latencies and stuff just doesn't fall over. And they're quite, if you have an issue, they're quite quick to kind of rewrite a driver or address it. You're not relying on a kind of OS-based driver. It's something that can be updated quite quickly. So RME definitely. Kenton, we've been massive fans of their through boxes, merge boxes, still use them now, and Kenton line drivers have a place. Again, they just travel really well. Solid metal boxes that aren't expensive, but just, they're kind of MIDI mainstays, if you like. What else?
There's something called Ferrofish I saw mentioned.
Yeah, Ferrofish make really good tour-friendly digital to analog converters. So if you're running like a MIDI based system, that can terminate on a Ferrofish interface to give you like MIDI out to digital desks and analog outs as well. Again, like the quality is superb. Very good gear.
Yeah, and MIDI, I only learnt that from reading stuff that you'd said in some interviews.
Oh, right.
MIDI
okay.
is like multiple audio, what is it, distribution interface or something?
Yeah, there you go. Well, MIDI is it's a digital audio format which is really well suited to live use, because it's kind of like a point-to-point system, a bit like ADAT. You can plug a cable in, plug it in at the other end, and it works. And if a cable needs unplugging and another one needs putting in, it just works. It's not like it's network audio where there's configuring to be done between two devices before they'll speak to each other. Obviously nowadays there's quite high track counts for people who use playback systems as well. So MIDI systems, you can have like a 64 track playback system quite easily with MIDI over a single cable to and stay in the digital world as well. So that audio is digital all the way to a monitor desk.
That's amazing.
The quality is stays much higher. There's much less in the way of cabling.
And what kind of bandwidth is that for each channel? Like what kind of audio rate?
Well, that'll run at 90. Traditionally, normally it's a 96. That tends to be.
Wow.
Tends to be the used sample rate. But yeah, computers are reliable enough now that they don't fall over operating at that sample rate. And there are boxes that you can put between your computer and a monitor desk to kind of up sample to 96 if you want to stay at a lower sample rate as well.
That's cool. I jumped in while you were thinking of other things to say. So if there's any other things to mention.
I was going to mention another company called Direct Out, who make that upsampling unit, amongst other things. They do MIDI auto switching boxes as well, which are quite cool. So you can have a MIDI stream from two separate computers into this box, and if one of them fails, the other one just kind of auto takes over, which for live playback is kind of essential, really.
Yeah. Oh god. I mean, there are a few videos online of people playing live and their laptop breaks halfway through a set, and it's so awkward. I think when you're an electronic artist, I mean, I'm only even talking at like amateur electronic music open mic nights and all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking big stages, but if you're an electronic artist and your gear fails, or the hub of what you're doing switches off and you've got to reboot it, and even if it's only 45 seconds, it kind of really takes away. You've got to have confidence in your gear, haven't you? You've got to have confidence in it. You can't really perform without that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely ways of, a lot of the time things are budget driven as well, but there's definitely ways of making sure there's no dead time. Even if you haven't got redundant playback and 2 computers and an auto switcher, because not everyone can afford to do that. But you could have like a few synths and a laptop set up and just have some like freestanding synth that's got some weird noise on it. So if the whole thing crashes, you just bring the weird noise up on your mixer and wiggle around with that while the whole thing reboots. There's definitely things you can do at quite a simple level to kind of overcome failure. But you got to just expect that things are going to go wrong, really, and just go, okay, what's my plan if that fails, or what's my plan if this fails? That's kind of key to any live rig, is going, okay, let's pretend this bit failed. What do we do? And just have a plan or another thing to take over. That's half the battle, really.
Yeah, that is a great way of looking at it. Like, if you look at the entire system and just imagine every single piece at some point failing and how you could circumvent that. Yeah, it's really good, man.
I mean, there's things like, that with the chems, some of the more important instruments, like there's a Juno 106, which is the bass line for almost every track. And obviously if that fails, there's a bit of an impact. So we have a spare, but we also track the rehearsals. So in the background, I have the same bass line running on a fader.
Wow.
So that should the Juno fail, we can bring that up while we go and get the other Juno and plumb that in. Obviously, you can't kind of play around with a track the way you can with the actual Juno. So, but those kind of backup files will fill a gap until we're back up and running. It's little things like that which are, again, worth kind of thinking about just to keep it rolling.
Definitely. Wow, that's such a great way to smooth things out. And I guess you have had situations where things have failed on stage. I'd be interested to know, like, how do you communicate? Like, how is the communication between you and the artists when there's a massive, like when Hey Boy, Hey Girl's playing? How do you communicate between each other?
Yeah, it can be quite challenging sometimes. Yeah, I mean, you can tell from body language a lot of the time. If you tour with someone for long enough, you can kind of go, right, something's not right there. I can just tell. I mean, I had a funny one when I worked for the band James. When I first started working for them, what I didn't realise was they all had kind of pet names for each other. So the keyboard player would kind of beckon me over and say, oh, can I get a bit more voo-voo or something like that? And I'd be like, right, okay. And I'd go back to the monitor engineer and go, oh, I think it's a bit cryptic, but I think he wants the bass up. And then I only found out about 3 years later that voo-voo was actually his pet name for the guitarist, Adrian. Right. and it all kind of made sense after that. But yeah, it can be quite challenging. I mean, what some touring artists have now, especially if they work on ears, is a little kind of shout ear system within the crew and the band, so they can tread on a pedal and say, oh, get me whatever, and that appears in everyone's ears, but obviously doesn't come out of the PA. That's just so allows people to kind of talk to each other, or certainly allows the artist to kind of say something into a mic and everyone hears it.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Yeah, it just kind of crossed my mind when there's such a massive PA so loud on stage. Yeah. But yeah, you're right.
You just got to kind of walk out very casually sometimes and just kind of go, yeah, everything all right? and sometimes it is, and they're like, yeah, everything's fine. You're like, oh right, okay, see ya.
Yeah, but I mean, you've been touring with the Chemical Brothers for 25 years? No, or more than that.
It's like 28 years, I think now.
Yeah.
97, start of 97.
Is there an element of telepathy now between you in some ways? In terms of those kind of things?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, in terms of the way we work, From anything creative is driven by them, whether it's sounds or the mix. That is their world. And then what they don't want to do sometimes is get bogged down with how do we back this up, and how do we save these patches, and how do we make this box talk to this box, so that there's a definite dividing line where I come in, and while that whole rehearsal's going on, sometimes I'll be like, oh, that'll sound good if that goes through that thing. And I might suggest that, or a lot of the time I'll have thought that and then be kind of working out in my head, I wonder how we do that if they flag it up, and then lo and behold, 10 minutes later they'll say, can we move this and put it through this pedal or whatever. And so you kind of do get a feel for the way they like to work sometimes, and anticipate certain things. Definitely.
Yeah, and just skipping back a little bit to those, you said about those like noise boxes that could maybe fill a gap when something does happen.
Oh yeah.
I posted a story a few weeks ago on Sonic State about Liam Howlett's got like a Defender arcade machine.
Yeah. His tech made it. Yeah.
So I mean, it looked amazing. I think I saw the story first on Reddit, and someone was speculating about it, and then there was actually a Sound on Sound article that photographed it really close up. And I guess those kind of things are good when you need just some sort of weird.
Yeah, I mean, it can be anything like some kind of pad that triggers a sampler, or if you've got one of those drum pad things, maybe got 6 pads on it and each one's got a different noise on it, that's just not triggered by anything apart from when you hit it. That's a really good get out of jail kind of device. Someone can just mess around with that for a few minutes while there's some frantic rebooting going on in the background.
Yeah, and what for you are your favorite tracks or favorite setups? Like, what really gets you excited in terms of the setups that you've worked on? Not necessarily with the Chemical Brothers, but which ones would you really get you going?
I really like some of these kind of hybrid systems we've got now, because it's quite a challenge to get a laptop and a drum machine and MIDI controllers and all of that gear to sync reliably with each other and stay synced over the course of like a 2-hour set. So those kind of challenges are quite interesting. And any rig that's like a performance type rig where someone's just jamming and bringing things in and out, and I want to sync this thing that's an analog clock, but I've got this drum machine that's MIDI, and I've got some tracks on live or whatever. Putting those kind of systems together is such good fun, especially when you've kind of got a design and a rough design, and what we always do is design those things and then plug it all in a very kind of loose fashion and just play with it for a day or two and imagine that, okay, I'm the artist. Does this kind of flow? Does it feel like it's really good fun to use? And that whole process is it's such good fun. It's quite open-ended, but yeah, they're the kind of rigs that I really enjoy doing, because there's much more of a kind of R&D element to it, rather than, I'm going to build a 2U rack and put an interface in it and wire up some connectors. That doesn't really. It's part of it, but yeah, anything that has an R&D kind of element to it's way more fun, obviously.
Yeah, and how does integrating? You said you'd done some stuff with James, or you've toured with James, or does
a long time ago? Yeah.
And are there more my gut instinct, and I could be totally wrong. Like my gut instinct is that like. Is it easier to set up electronic acts than sort of rock bands, or like how do the two compare?
The build and setup of the equipment side of it is probably easier for a rock band, but then especially if they're a band that have quite a lot of playback tracks, there's a lot of programming that goes into that to make a live show work. There might be kind of click tracks and counts and stuff going on in the background for people's ears, as well as the music. Whereas a lot of electronic artists, because they're self-producing a lot of the time, that they kind of turn up with a set already programmed or very close to programmed for certainly what's on the laptops. And in that case, you're kind of adding hardware and helping them patch change something remotely, or just help bring the elements in rather than straight up programming. So yeah, rock it's definitely a different philosophy, but rock artists, there tends to be more of a journey with the computer and the playback side of it, and that kind of never stops. I've done tours where 3 months into the tour, we're still kind of tweaking levels on a track or doing an edit or, taking out certain sounds or extending a section. That's the problem with computers. It never really can't put things to bed.
Yeah, and I guess there's kind of updates happening all the time and new versions and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's just thinking about some of those early Chem tours when it was tape. Things were printed to tape and that was it. That was like, okay, this is the set for this summer. And if a bit went on for too long, the band had to remember to mute that bit at a certain point. So the mixer was just covered in notes of, bar, whatever, take this out. And their mixing style was a lot more different than it is now, where you can obviously change the arrangement. The mixing's more on the effects now, that's kind of further up the desk where they can, because that's where they do a lot of their stuff is how they manipulate effects and bring things in and out, rather than the arrangement, which you can kind of semi hone in a computer. You can say, okay, this is the arrangement for this song.
Yeah, there's a really interesting bit in the Chemical Brothers book I mentioned earlier, with Tom's talking about like the arrangement is like a jigsaw puzzle for him, and it's like there is a solution to it somewhere. And he mentioned the arrangement of No Geography, because it's a very short track. It's only like I think it's like 3 minutes something, 3 minutes 10 or something. Quite a short track, really. And he mentions in the book that he said all he wanted to say in that not him alone. They said all they wanted to say within that 3 minutes, and I thought that was really interesting. That I just really like the way he said that it's a puzzle that has a solution always, the arrangement.
Yeah, definitely. And the way they work live, frequencies are a massive thing, obviously. So how things work with other things from a frequency perspective is quite a big part of it. And they're forever kind of checking layers. Does this layer work with that layer? And do these things within this layer all work with each other? And they're not afraid to discard something immediately. They might be looking for a riff for a section and go, we'll try sequencing the ARP from a Doppler sequencer and spend a few minutes doing that and come up with 3 or 4 sequence lines, which we're all going, that's brilliant. But they'll go, nah, get better than that. And just the amount of things that get binned that are brilliant, but they ultimately find something that's better. That in itself, I think, is like a massive skill, just being able to sift through the ideas and actually make something coherent out of them. Everyone can come up with ideas, but it's making sense of them. There's a big skill in that.
Absolutely. There's such a lot of decisions to be made when you're kind of making music, and I think being headstrong and trusting your instinct, and some people have those skills, and it's really impressive. Like, I mean, a track like Hey Boy, Hey Girl is just like an absolute masterpiece, start to finish. Like every element is just vibey and buzzy, and it's like
that whole album for me. I love that whoole album as well.
Me too, man.
Particular kind of favorite, to be honest. Yeah,
absolutely. Out of Control. Got Glint. It must have been amazing. You must have had some amazing times touring, man, especially around.
We've had some. Yeah, it's been good, man. I've got to say, I kind of consider myself very lucky. I'm doing a job that I thoroughly enjoy, and being able to witness some of those shows over the years it's been brilliant. Yeah, I feel privileged to kind of do it, to be honest.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you've had a really huge impact on, I think, globally, the Chemical Brothers and the people around them have inspired so many people to make music. They've inspired so many people to have fun, party. Yeah, it's like it's a global influence that is really unique.
And I've seen a lot of shows that are just we'll press play, and they don't have that same spontaneity, because that is such a big part of what they do. When they're up there, they are making it up as they go along a lot of the time. If you watch this first show of this tour and the last one, they're so different to each other. They might grab an effect send on a channel and dub something, and it's the wrong channel, and they'll be like, oh, but then you go, oh, actually, that sounded pretty good. So then you know that's going to be in the next night, you know, and those happy accidents just build over a tour. And that's what's brilliant about it. And everyone else around them follows that kind of lead. So, you know, the lighting, the video, that's not just, okay, we've programmed it on day one, that's it. You know, the whole thing is this kind of fluid thing that's ever evolving, and I think it definitely comes across in the shows. You know, I think that's why it's connected. So many people connect with it because there's a kind of tangible feeling behind it of organicness and realness. You know, and it's not just, oh, we'll press play and just kind of go through the motions, you know, and you can always tell when something's like that.
Yeah, and I can't imagine why any artist would go down the route of just sort of playing back every time when, I mean, it must be so much fun for them to discover like, oh, actually, that really works in that track, that thing we accidentally did the other night. Yeah, it must be spectacular. I also want to mention off Surrender, the Sunshine Underground.
Oh, yeah.
I think of all of the Chemical Brothers tracks over the years, for some reason that one has in recent years I just can't stop listening to it. It's just such, I mean, in connection to, like, let's say, like, the psychedelic experiences that we've all had, the drop on that track with all the details and the sheen and stuff, it's like there's a resonance to the production that speaks about a lot of things, you know. That
always used to. There's a bit which ironically is still in every live show. There was when we were on MPCs, we'd run out of bars at 999 and have to stop playback of the MPC and load the next song, and then we could start again. So there'd be a bit in the middle where we'd kind of the guys would twiddle around with a SH-101 and fill that airtime and then go, okay, it's loaded, we can go now. Within the live circles, that was known as the fag break. And then we obviously don't need that now with a laptop, but it stayed in.
Nice.
And it's a really good way of resetting. And Sunshine Underground was always the first song after we'd done that load, and then we started again, and it was such a good way of resetting and maybe shifting the focus a bit. And then the build, they just built that and built that and built that until it dropped in, and it was always like a real moment live. It was brilliant.
Yeah, unbelievable track. I get shivers. I get shivers now. I get sort of welling up thinking about how much their music's just really influenced me. Private Psychedelic Real as well. Like there's if anyone wants to know anything about Private Psychedelic Real, get the book we've been mentioning, because there's whole sections on how it came about, and that as well is just such an incredible piece of music. Yeah,
always the last song of the set. I think it always will be. I don't think you can see it anywhere else. It's a really good, fitting way to end the gig. Don't know what else to say about it really.
I think there was a thing.
Another great one.
There was a thing in the book about it. I think it was an emulator. I think, again, it's another Tom thing where he said he was sampling a guitar and then pitch modulating it so it sounded like a sitar. Is that right? Have I got that right?
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
Because it does sound like a sitar, and I've always thought it's a sitar in the beginning of that. But I think he mentions there's like he put an LFO pitch mod on a guitar, and it kind of gave it that sort of wobbly pitch that a sitar has.
It sounds about right. Everything goes through something, even live. You know, there are things that go through something else to give them an edge or a slightly different sound. You know, we've got a whole rack of MIDI clocked effects that are like clocked filters and distortion units and pitch shifters, you name it. It's all kind of synced and in time, and what is a really good synth line might just go through some of that to make it an even better synth line, you know, and give it even more character. That's the whole kind of ethos behind it.
Yeah, man. And are you is there a tour coming up? What are your plans with the Chemical Brothers specifically?
We're just waiting to find out. I don't know. They're out DJing this year, which is normally a dry run for kind of trying new tracks. I think, you know, that if you're a DJ and you write music, that's what you do. You'll kind of bench test, go out and bench test tunes and see what the reaction is. So I think they're in that world at the moment, and we're just waiting to see, as and when when that kind of process is done, if there's going to be another tour. So yeah, watch this space, I'd say.
Amazing. Amazing. I did have a chance meeting with Steve Dubb a few years ago. Well, I was interviewing a guy called Pendulum who makes like really cool contact instruments. What are they called? It's called like treated piano or something. It's like where you get a piano and then shove loads of like stuff in it and you make really textured sounds. That's Pendle Poucher. And he was like, Steve Dubb's got a studio in the building. Do you want to meet him? And I was like, holy fuck, okay. And I was like super nervous. I might edit this bit out because it's just me telling you a story. But so he was like, do you want to go and see Steve Dubb? And I was like, well, I'm kind of already getting nervous, but yeah, okay, let's do it. And we could hear this mental kind of breakbeat tune coming out of this room. We were really far away, and I was like, "Oh my god, that tune sounds fucking amazing." I don't know what it is, and we went in, and I was just like, "Wow, man, nice to meet you." And he was a really nice guy. He was so nice. He was like, come and just sit down and just had a little chat.
Cool.
Does Steve Dubb tour with you? Does he kind of? Is he?
No, he doesn't. No, Steve's synonymous with the recorded stuff, but he's not involved in live stuff. There's another engineer, Sean Hera, who's mixed front of house for the band for a very long time, since about 2000, I think. So Steve's not part of that, but he's the kind of ears, I think. Years of the operation.
Yeah, really funny guy. He said I could interview him, and then he gave me his phone number, and then I fucking lost my phone. And then I've gone to that building so many times to knock on his door, and I've never been able to get in. So I just think it's not meant to be.
I can probably get it for you, to be honest, if you want it.
That would be amazing. I really appreciate that. He did say to me in person that I'd love to speak to you.
Okay.
But then also there's a side of me that's going, am I just interviewing like everyone around the Chemical Brothers at this stage?
Well, I guess you could do it and then shelve it for a bit so it's not coming out all at the same time. I don't know how far ahead of things you release stuff. But.
Yeah, and I guess it's a bit small-minded to say that you're not 100. There's so many other bands you've worked with, like the Prodigy. We hardly even mentioned the Prodigy. The Prodigy also fucking hugely influential and still are. New Order and stuff, and Steve's mastered for all kinds of artists, so it wouldn't. I do my best to not spend the whole time talking about the Chemical Brothers. As hard as that is.
I mean, that is who I'm predominantly associated with, but like some of the live design stuff, people like Subfocus, Bicep, Over Mono, Disclosure. There's been a lot of kind of dance orientated stuff. We've just done Summit for DJ Luciano through Gravity Rigs. That's going to be out this year. That's an exciting hybrid system again. Yeah, love it.
Amazing.
Yeah, love working with all those people, and they all know what they want. They're all very clear on where they're trying to go, and that's brilliant. Let's just do that journey together.
Yeah, man. Well done for doing what you do, man. You're also clearly world class at what you're doing. There's no sort of there's no chance that you're doing what you're doing for sure.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, just trying to stay humble, keep going. I love it. I'm like, I'm a massive fan of a lot of the people I work for as well. So at the same time as working with them, I'm like, going, is this like some bizarre edition of Jim will Fix It or something?
Yeah.
You can't say that anymore, can you?
No, you can't say that. No, that's got bad connotations. There needs to be a new one because that is a kind of default response for anyone who was born a few years ago. Yeah, but I understand what you mean, and I'm sure our UK audience will understand. And who inspires you? What sort of live shows inspire you? Do you ever go to a live show and you're like, I can't believe that they're doing that? Or what sort of live shows have inspired you throughout? Or maybe even in recent years, who's doing things a bit differently that's not status quo?
I did, like when the whole modular thing was blowing up, LCD sound system and actually Hot Chip when I first started working with them as well, there was this, like, we're not going to sequence anything. We're going to play it live. We're going to use all the instruments that you'd expect people who are sequencing and using Ableton to use, but we're going to play them live. And I really like that, like, we don't care how much gear we've got. It's this kind of crazy junkyard ethos of, oh, we need another sound. All right, we'll get another bit of gear out, you know, and it's, from an aesthetic point of view, I think that looks brilliant. And yeah, I really like what LCD sound system were doing when they had a lot of that kind of modular gear on stage. It's like, okay, what's actually going to happen now? Because that can be quite unpredictable, that whole side of things. And I think that's great, you know, when something's not written in stone and it all that kind of gear makes things so open-ended that, yeah, you don't know what you're going to get, which is great. You go into a live show and going, okay, what weird sounds are we going to get out of that lot then? And how's it going to, you know, is it going to work even?
Yeah, that is an exciting feeling. That's an exciting feeling when you're not sure what's going to happen. I did see a really interesting thing that's coming up in a few months' time, and it's 3 really big artists. I think it's Clark, Rival Consoles, and someone else. And they're doing a 2.5-hour improv jam together live. Brilliant. As a concert.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those modular meets where people do that. They'll kind of rock up with some modular and go, okay, well, we'll just see what happens. You know, that's pretty cool. Quite like that kind of jazz mindset. It's very live. You know, it really is. Like it doesn't get much liver than that, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I mentioned before, even on like amateur levels, yeah, there's definitely people. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here in Brighton. There's a really great experimental night called Spirit of Gravity here, which is, you never know what you're going to see when you turn up to that. Somebody might be playing like a bucket, or, you know, you name it. There's like, it's in a musical whatever it is, it's a musical instrument. However normal it looks outside of that room, you know.
Yeah. Table tennis bat and some string, and away you go.
Yeah, I think one of the first ones I went to, someone was playing a saw, like a massive saw. I was like, fucking hell. Okay.
Yeah, I remember doing a session when I was a tape op in Planet 4, and 808 State were doing some stuff in there, and Gray and Massey would turn up with some homemade instruments in a kind of tartan wheeled shopping bag, you know, those kind of things on wheels see old deers walking down the street. Yeah, he'd bring various homemade instruments in that all made like a unique kind of noise, which was quite cool.
Yeah, everything's a musical instrument. Everything resonates, you know. Yeah. Everything resonates. It's like you just got to find out how to make it resonate.
Yeah, there's that Eurorack modular. I think it's a module. Yeah, and you can put contact to anything, you know, and then use those to trigger stuff in your system. It's quite so, yeah. Anything becomes like a sound generating device, which is quite interesting. Absolutely.
I posted an article on Sonic State just before the end of the year, which was a mushroom playing the drums.
Right, there you go.
There's a video of it.
Brilliant. I might have to have a look at that. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. There was this flurry last year of ridiculous news stories. There was 3 in a row. There was the Eurorack module that's got mud in it.
Right.
And you can process your sound through this it's Transylvanian mud.
Oh, it's not just any old mud.
No,
right, okay.
It wasn't. And obviously I put a joke about a muddy mix and earthing something. And then there was another one about somebody didn't have an audio connector to connect 2 cables together, so they used a carrot. They put like the audio things in the carrot and then grounded it, and he played it back, and it was actually Nick Batt, who runs Sonic State, was like, I actually preferred the sound of the carrot to the adapter. It's so funny.
Brilliant. I can just imagine someone with like a rack of different sized carrots, depending on the need.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my stereo mix carrot, and that's the exactly balanced.
Yeah, that carrot's slightly bigger than the other one, so the mix might be a bit one-sided.
Yeah. But we've only got it for like 2 weeks before it goes rotten, so you got to hammer the mix.
We lose all the top end. Yeah.
Brilliant, man. Well, thanks very much for talking to us today. It's been amazing.
Great. Yeah, hope you've got Summit to work with from today?
Absolutely, yeah, loads. It would just be good to mention maybe what you're about Gravity Rigs, and about if anyone wants to find out about what you do or find out more about Gravity Rigs. Where would you direct people to go to?
Yeah, Gravity Rigs, gravityrigs.com is where you can find us. You can land on the site and look at some of the projects we've done over the last 2 or 3 years. Just revamped the site recently, actually. It's looking pretty cool. And there's a chat bot on there, so if you want to land on there, just ask us a question. That comes through to us and we'll respond straight away. But Gravity Rigs, we're designing a new product line this year. We're now making our own racks, our own enclosures that are like super lightweight, more lightweight than anything else that's out there. We've now got a kind of build facility not far from you, actually. Alex Turner, the other half of Gravity Rigs, he's got a kind of really good build facility down in Hove now. So we can build bigger systems down there, and up here in Manchester I can program and build smaller rigs. But yeah, we've got loads of plans for this year. New product line, which is upgradable and expandable, so you can start with a small kind of playback performance rig and upgrade it at minimal cost. Lots in the pipeline. A few live projects on the go as well. But yeah, gravityrigs.com. It's all there, so just land there and you'll find us.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and thank you from everybody who's ever been to a Chemical Brothers gig and Prodigy gig and Disclosure and Orbital and Hardship and everything you else has done. What you do is so integral, and I think it's so valuable for the artist to have somebody who's strong-minded and who's able to set everything up. So thank you for what you do, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you as well. Good speaking to you. Good connecting with you, man. Love Sonic State. Love what they do as well. Always on there. So it's good to speak to you, man.
Oh, fantastic chat with Matt there. What a really lovely guy. Very down to earth, and so many stories. Can you imagine? The mind boggles when you think of all the shenanigans, the stories, the live performances that he's been part of. And the likes of him are integral to live performance. They really are. Like, I'm sure you're aware of how important these people are in making sure that you have those experiences at concerts and festivals. So huge respect for Matt, huge respect for the work that he does. I would urge you to go and check out Gravity Rigs, check out their website. You can see some of the rigs that they've built for the artists that were mentioned at the beginning, and also many others. And it's amazing to see how those rigs are built, how they're put together. So go and check out Gravity Rigs. They are working with some amazing artists now, and I'm sure going into the future too. Okay, so that is the end of episode 2. Just to remind you that there are 50 episodes of series 1 of the midierror Meets podcast, which you can check out. I would recommend listening to the John Astley interview. His dad is Edwin Astley, who wrote the theme tune for The Saint, but John actually was a pop star in the 90s, and he produced all kinds of amazing music. So if I could recommend one episode, check out the one with John. Okay, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.